Hello and good morning and a very warm welcome to the fourth day of the NHS Project Futures Festival. We have a fabulous, creative, inspirational lineup for you this morning and we're looking forward to your participation. I'm Mike Gray, Capability and Resourcing Manager at the National Portfolio Management Office at Health Education England. And thanks for joining the NHS Project Futures Festival. Also helping today to facilitate this session is my wonderful colleague, Christine Twigg. Would you like to introduce yourself, Christine?
Yes, I would, Mike. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Christine Twigg. I also work at Health Education England as Programme Administrator in the Corporate Portfolio Office. Just before we introduce you to the team that are leading on building trust at the core of the NHS Project Futures community, Tribal Leadership Lessons, what a big title. I just want to let you know the formats of the virtual festival. You'll see on the right of the screen a panel detailing chat and Q&A. The chat is perhaps obvious, but the Q&A is for you to put questions to Anthony, Doutzen and Krishna as you think of them. You are welcome to type your chats and Q&As at any time during the presentation. Mike and I will be checking these at regular points and there will be time at the end to go through as many of these as possible. Festival game code will be given at the end of the session. However, if you arrived before the session went live, you'll have seen the game code on screen. You can write this down in the notes tab on the right-hand side of the screen. We will also give a game code at the end of the session.
Thanks, Christine. So we thought a good place to start would be to share the NHS Project Futures vision statement. Some of you may have seen this already, but for those that haven't, the NHS project profession attracts, develops and retains project professionals and practitioners, ensuring the NHS has the capacity and capability to drive sustainable change to the system for the benefit of patients. With the NHS Project Futures vision statement in mind, we want you to start thinking creatively about types of people we need to bring together to build our community in a cohesive and inclusive way. What is the purpose we share? What does that journey look like? And what is going to be the territory challenges as we start out our journey together? So Anthony is going to be introducing the team and he's going to be introducing you to the experience and adventures in leadership as a core competency, which is what I'll be touching on in the NHS Project and Change Capability Framework later this afternoon. This is a new and exciting way of looking and thinking about our own leadership. Anthony, welcome and over to you.
Thank you very much indeed. It's a privilege and an honor to be with you. As I say, I'm Anthony Willoughby, and it really is an honor to be with the NHS. You've looked after me incredibly well, and what you've been through has just been quite phenomenal. So I'd really like to thank you so much for that. And decades ago, I wrote a book called In Search of Inspiration. And the opening line there really is around we have the freedom of choice to shape our own destiny. And my quest has been to understand what I need to understand about myself and human nature, to really feel that sense of freedom and fulfillment that my parents, ancestors enjoyed. And on this journey, I've met some absolutely extraordinary people, and you'll be meeting two of them today. One is Krishna, Krishna Thapa, who has climbed Everest. He's climbed K2. He comes from Nepal. He has joined the Gurkhas and also joined the SAS. So his conversations on leadership, I think you'll find inspirational and really phenomenal as you think about your own journey on this exciting and very difficult time and this expedition. And I'd also like to introduce Doutzen Groothoff, who is originally from Holland, who I met 5 years ago in Tokyo, and she'll be taking you through the journey this afternoon, later on this morning. And really, she's got an extraordinary story and will be telling you about her passion and her purpose, and really living life with curiosity, passion, and that sense of courage. So what I'd now like to do is to talk a little bit about the background of how these ideas have evolved and where they have come from. So really, I'd like to welcome you to the Project Futures expedition. This has been a wonderful way of working and looking at the different journeys and that I've been on and elsewhere, but seeing that your leadership capabilities that you've been promoting through this Project Futures, inspiring others, and I've added to that giving hope, the visible leadership, the conflict resolution, the coaching, mentoring, and the working with ambiguity. And I think this is something we take with us throughout our lives, whether we're on a journey on a mountain or whether we're on a journey in our own lives, moving from A to B. So please today, think about metaphor, think about hope, think about belief, and think really about yourselves and people that you would like to inspire, like to thank, and really give them that sense of hope and belief. Because I think for me and the different people I've met, it's always been around that inspiring others and giving hope. And that's really what I felt was absolutely happened when I was given hospital with in other areas. But also realizing that even when you're looking at something that is coming towards you, it can get close, it can be frightening, and it can be dangerous. But today, what I'd like to talk about is something that I've discovered over the last 50 years, is that inside everybody, there is a map. And everybody can draw a map. And once you see someone else's map, you can start to understand where you are, where you want to go on that journey. And by seeing other people's maps, it starts to build trust and hope. And I'll be talking a lot about trust because I think that has been my greatest lesson in life, is how do you create that trust? And I stress that my ideas have not come from academia, from study. I was fortunately told I was the most stupid boy at school, so there was no point I should ever think of going to university. So I thought, wow, freedom. So I've really been on a quest for many, many years. And there's been people who've kindly invited me around their fires. And in Kenya, when I asked some Maasai, so who is the leader here? They simply said to me, what is the problem you're trying to solve? We have many leaders. It's simply a matter of telling us the problem and we will help you solve it. And I thought how a different approach it is that we have. And more recently, I've been spending time in Mongolia. I stress I've just had my 70th birthday, but I'm still falling off wild camels, or I did a couple of years ago. But it's just been glorious being with people on their own journeys and realizing that in life we have the metaphors of the rivers we have to cross. And really life is about knowing what we have, what are our assets, what are our values, what is really our prosperity. And that has surely got to be the collective skills that we have, and that sense of pleasure of being with people who've got a totally different way, but their hopes, their fears are just the same as ours. So what I've been doing with my life is ready to take people to spend time in Mongolia, to really start to ask about the values, the purpose, how do people see things? And it's this ability to adapt. The ability to adapt to changing environments while maintaining one's community, one's hopes and those beliefs. So really, as you look out and think about what is that future for yourself, what is your assets? Because at the moment, I think we all find ourselves in a storm. It's difficult to know what to do. We're robbed of those points of reference. And that's why inviting Emmanuel Mankura, my Maasai friend, to educate people in Tokyo about really what is it to have clarity, to know your cattle, to not really have the luxury of complexity. And I ask you to think about your own maps What is it? What is that journey that you're actually on? The protection as gradually you move through. And people are becoming fascinated by understanding more about the spheres, about the traditions and how we earn the respect of others, how we earn our seat by the fire. And ultimately it's about wisdom. And how do you then, as the most important aspect of leadership, is inspiring others with hope and belief. And as I say, these are new ways of getting people to think about ultimately themselves. And what I've done with the Maasai is to ask them, what is it? What is the essence that has given you the ability to adapt for hundreds and hundreds of years? And it links so closely, really, to your Project Future's leadership principles. It really is around inspiring others, that invisible leadership that is so important. And then the visible leadership that you have to demonstrate. But really now, and in it, it's always been that ability to adapt to ambiguity, to coach and inspire others, and then also to resolve conflicts. These have been with us since time began, but it's so difficult to provide them with that context. And as I say, this is really what has been fascinating people, and this is why we bring the Maasai to teach, or we take people to Africa to learn. Because I think in time we have to put the record button of life on. We have to realize that we all need hope, we all need belief, we all need that sense of inspiration. That time, please today, take a bit of time as in the next session to think about looking in the fire and thinking about yourself in your own picture with that smiling face in the hut, talking to people who are different and absolutely celebrating that transition in life as we move with our different roles and our responsibilities to go on a journey that really we're all on, and it's all in our mind. What does that journey feel like? What I'd like to do now is to tell you a little bit about how these ideas have actually evolved. There I am as a small boy growing up in the 50s in Kenya and in the Sudan. My father was a military attaché there. And when I asked my father about educating my own children, he simply said, make sure they play sports in which they can get seriously hurt. And there I am at school thinking, what are these values that I'm around? I'm used to being with pet scorpions, and all of a sudden I have to worry about my hospital bed corner. And I started to think, I need to have an adventure. I need to realize we're on this one-way journey. When I was 22, I took a one-way ticket on the Trans-Siberian Express to Japan, and I lived there for 30 years. I had jobs like looking after the skipping rope champion. But it gave me this opportunity to go off to Beijing and to journey into new and different places. And I show these pictures of me hitchhiking, whether it's in China, along the Silk Road, or whether it's hitchhiking across Australia. Because what hitchhiking has really taught me, and which I'm also teaching my son about as well, is we have to wear this badge saying, I trust you, trust me. And it's this glorious thing I think we sort of forget, that on the whole, people are going to be wonderful. I've never had a bad experience in 40,000 miles. But I think we have to realize also about this trust and how it comes to us. Because this is a journey that I was on in northern Kenya back in 1982. And we were there for 21 days going through the bush. But each evening, the Maasai would wander into our little encampment. And what I saw there were people who had absolute substance without arrogance. They had presence. And I realized my entire education was, how could you be massively arrogant with minimum substance? So I became fascinated. What is it that we've lost? What is it that we haven't been taught? And that's when I met Joseph Nombre, the Papua New Guinea ambassador to Tokyo. And he said, well, if I don't know what we've got, but why don't you go to my village? So there I am in the highlands of Papua New Guinea. And there I am asking them about, why do you have so many feathers? They says, well, a big man has many feathers. A bigger man can hand out his feathers. And they started to show that leadership was that ability to contribute, to protect the community. And I asked them about the spear. Why do you have a spear? They said, well, you have to earn it. You can't buy it. You can't sell it. You can't give it away. You must accept the responsibility. And I thought of all those people I knew in Tokyo who had director on their name card, but nobody would follow them because they hadn't contributed to the community. And when I got back to Tokyo, I asked the ambassador, what is the single most important thing in your life? And he said, it is my territory. It is my territory, and therefore I know my duty, and therefore I know my aims and ambitions. And I started thinking, what was my territory? A couple of bars where people were friendly, a BMW. And I started to realize actually the world was my territory. My world was there to be explored, whether it was into the deserts of Mongolia or China or elsewhere. It was to take the wonderful world that we have and see of our resources and what is possible. And even on this journey across Papua New Guinea, we had 24 bottles of wine and no food because there were villages. But on this journey, we had a complainer. And what I saw is that one person complaining is like a coward. They destroy the morale. They don't come up with solutions. And I was then invited to climb a high mountain in China, a 7,000-meter mountain without porters and oxygen. And I realized for this journey, I needed new skills. I needed new attitudes. And I got everybody to sign a document saying, I will not complain. Because I realized that if we complain, we're never going to get to the solutions. We're never going to climb the mountains. These are in Kilimanjaro, Kenya, Mount Stanley in the Ruwenzori. And I started to seeing that coaching and mentoring is ultimately around giving people hope and belief. And I started to see that all of this was around trust, around being bold. And I thought, what have I learned from my expedition? And I'd been in the training center in Japan. And what they did was to break people down, to regiment them. And worst of all, they put on badges of shame. And it made me think really that this is what we are like. We tell children where they can't do something. They're unintelligent. They haven't got the potential. And I thought, why don't we give people hope?
This is a man who at the end of those 3 days had failed the course completely.
I thought, why don't we give people trust and willpower? Unlock trust. So I left the center of Tokyo. I went to live in an old farmhouse. I borrowed a tarpaulin and I started a program called I Will Not Complain, because I wanted to give people trust and willpower. We had a training center on the Great Wall of China. It was fantastic getting people to think about where they were, where they wanted to go in their lives. And again, going back to trust, we even made it into the Financial Times, learning to trust. And I think this is really the key. But what I saw getting people to trust each other was fairly easy. You just give them something to do, you give them a bit of fun. But what people started to ask me was, what is my purpose? What is my role? What is my contribution to the community? And it started to make me think that really this is what we always used to have. How do we earn the spear? How do we hand out the feathers? How do we say thank you to people? How do we invite people around the fire with that clarity? And this is what I've been working on for the last 20 years, is asking people to draw their territory, to think about their journey in life. And what I saw in Papua New Guinea was it was very clear. They knew their villages, they knew their hunting areas, they knew the farming areas. And what I discovered was in a company, in any organization, they knew the hunting areas, the farming areas, the fishing areas, and they knew the routes to get there. And by asking people to talk about their territory, to talk about where they are, they can give each other hope. They can lead each other. They can create a dynamism of succession planning, of giving direction and hope to others. The trouble is, what I've discovered in so many organizations is the head of it says we're heading for paradise. But when you ask the next level of management, all they see is bullshit bridge, fantasy applications. So really think about the leadership we need. If everybody in your division, in your area was on the same map, how would you be protecting the patient? And this is working with the Gates Foundation in in China. And what they saw is their way forward through the mountains. It was a worrying way forward, but they came up with this idea, Seattle, China, Africa. Why don't we come up with an idea that is so bold that it will raise Africa working with China? And they came up with this idea of why don't we mobilize resources from China for global polio eradication? And I saw a couple of months ago that this has actually been successful. I would never, ever claim credit, but I remember when the idea was floated. So I think it's how do we see the future? And the trouble is, well, everybody's map is different. And the bottom, you can see the desert of where we have to migrate. We need new ideas, but we can't do anything because our senior management are hugging each other. They won't give us direction. And as the leaders, what are those mountains that you see climbing? Are there other opportunities? How do you see the journey with the Central Bank of Indonesia? They headed off in one boat, but they were caught up in other problems. And everybody will see their world differently. But once you can see someone's world, you can start to give hope. You can start to give belief. You can start to understand the journey and the other person's perspectives. And this is working with all sorts of organizations. And I've had the privilege to work with some hospitals and elsewhere in the NHS at the Royal Marsden to start to analyze what are the problems. The language doesn't matter. Rivers are mountains. And we can then all help each other. And what I've found recently with COVID is how do we move from fear to hope? How do we give people that sense of what is going to change? Because everybody's terrain has changed. This is education a year ago. Now that all of a sudden the children are coming across the old ways, Ofsted no longer hold the control. It has now moved forward, governance, leadership, everything has changed. But are we adapting? Are we helping people with that change? And even for an Aboriginal woman in Australia, she feels she was born with just one eye open because her parents were part of the stolen generation. She wants to go back to knowing who you are, being culturally aware, fulfillment, oneself. How do we migrate to one's own potential? Who can help us really on that journey? And this is the wonderful work that it was fabulous to work with Mike and Christine and the team. It was really how do we move from one group? How do we take the project partnership to expand to other people, to bring in that sense of hope, that sense of belief, that sense that we are really part of a community. And this is the map which appeared from that journey, from that conversation. How do we get out of the swamps? How do we migrate around that same fire? And as this is the map that came out of it, the NHS Project Futures, thinking about the leadership that will get you there, that are the principles of leadership. But really around leadership, I can talk a tiny bit about it. but your next speaker is Krishna, and he will be talking about what it's like to really, really go on an expedition.
You can see this is the base camp. Yeah. Bro, you should have nothing on your backpack, just at least have 2 liter water, 2 liter water. Yeah. Some snack, like spicy chocolates, biscuits. If guys will have some as well. And it's some warm gloves, warm hat, and then the whatever some you got planned. And if this in the morning, go. And then if you need warm, if you want, just take the back bit, that bit clear out, put it in the thing, and then just.
Krishna, thank you so much. Over to Krishna to talk about really what it means to really have that sense of energy, which I'm sure we all need to overcome today's challenges. Thank you, Krishna. Over to you.
Thank you. Namaste. Good morning, everyone. I'm Krishna Thapa, born in Nepal, Himalayas, with a culture of Buddhists, Hindus, and with that culture, obviously being a boy from Nepal and Asian, we have a culture of living what we call is our parents' dreams. So I'm still living my mom and dad dreams. And there you go, at age of the 17, joined the Gurkhas. After that, and I've been told to go at one of the hardest SF selection, and here I am now. And thank you very much for the incredible journey, Anthony, Mike, and all the NHS staff who've been doing incredible job in my experience. If I may just recall, when I was in the as part of the service, when we go around the world, I think we are in this couple of times in the distressful situation, but I think NHS staff are constantly, in their mind, pressure from the COVID, who would have been thought, last 12 months before we would have been in this situation. No one can actually see each other. No one can actually hug each other. And, I think, so this is why it's very important, and you guys are doing a fantastic job. And I'm very, very proud and be a part of this incredible job. Thank you. So yeah, if I may allow, I will, I think Anthony and Mike already talked about my personal kind of life. Today, next 20 or 25 minutes or so, I'm gonna take you to my journey to the Everest, where I will share my knowledge and experience I had over the years through the military and also through my spiritual journey of life, how I make a decision and being, what does that mean to me, how can we connect each other, progress, and be a difference, and then make a difference with the principle of leadership through the NHS Future Project. So yeah, I've been privileged, been told to, over the years, told to do the Everest expedition for the Gurkhas, 200 years. One of the most important thing, just keep in mind, is that the 29,000 feet, where the oxygen level is less than 40% where we are now living in that situation. So one of the most important thing is, I think everyone can remember in 2015 when earthquake struck. I was with the team in the Everest Camp 2. When the earthquake happened, everything is shattered, everything is turned around, and only thing I remember is what we have left is ourselves. In that situation, I've been told to have lead the team, and how can we manage, how can we control the individual to the group. I think when I recall my situation on that, the only way of conflicting with myself is, have I got the pure control of myself? That is when I have a sense of achievement with how can I have a awareness of the group? How can I have emotional energy? How can I have control someone else? That's the only way to control that situation, is how can I control ourselves and myself? In order to do that, the way I've been sometime is as a leader, as a leadership, as an expedition leader, it's very important to have understanding those people and those life. By understanding ourselves is understanding through that. The only way to understand that is when we, as in the military or in our Buddhism spiritual, in our mind, we talk about the 4 dimensions, which are the intellectual mind, and then the identity, and the memories. If we can reflect that myself, and taking from there is understanding the surrounding situation, understanding our own hope and faith. We need to have that clear and concise and awareness. So basically, I'm just talking about when I've been told on that Camp 1 to rescue, have a route plan to go and rescue the team from the Camp 1. So on that situation, to be honest, I was very, very hard situation. The only way I can do that is when my legacy, I left behind my emotion, I put it on the side, my emotion, where I connected with my families and friends back in home. And that's the one, when we have control of that self, then you can keep moving with that inspiration, with that legacy we left behind. And then that's the only way you can connect with and understanding with the people and move forward. As the way, at the same time, when we rescued eventually on that time, we were then in the second year, we were going to the Everest Summit. On the Everest Summit was very, very hard to, as you can see, the oxygen level was 40%, 30 to 40% less on the Everest. The only way to do that is to have an understanding of my emotion, my energy, where it's connected with my friends. Not eventually you forget yourself and you are connected with your friends and with the people around you. So I think to me, it's the most important thing to connect is how can we have a sense of feeling. So after, like summiting the Everest with the team, and have I got the understanding of my feeling? Have I got understanding of my mind, how it's work? Have I got understanding of myself? That's the only way of reflecting to then conscious with the surrounding situation, and you can connect with the rest of the world. And this is how I see myself basically, and connecting and submitting the Everest and understanding the situation. Okay. Next thing is how can we connect with the rest of the world, is to have understanding of yourself, and understanding ourselves.
Great. Thank you. So, Krishna, yes. Mike, do you want to make any comments or? Yeah.
Fantastic. That was absolutely very, very insightful from both of you, and exactly what the journey is that we need to take, and actually encouraging people to think a little bit more about their self-directed journey through leadership. And some of the experiences you've spoke about this morning will really help people to start that thinking, and really start to understand the journey they need to take to be part of the NHS Project Futures profession. The chat's been really, really good, actually. There's a lot of people who love the images you've shared, Anthony, on your slides. You've obviously traveled the world. You've met lots of different people and experienced different cultures. And that's something that's come through on the chat, I think. And it's amazing to think, and very inspirational. There's a comment around that. And yeah, the video that you played, Krishna, there's a couple of comments around that as well. Fantastic video. I can imagine that was quite difficult to film given the altitude you were at that point.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so I think there's definitely, from what you've both spoke about, there's experiences that you've both drawn from that center around leadership. And Anthony and Krishna, you've both spoke about what leadership elements you've drawn from speaking to other cultures and going on an expedition. And that adds out clarity and a sense of purpose and passion, doesn't it?
But Mike, if I can just say something, I mean, the leadership that is demonstrated by every single person in the audience, to me, is just absolutely extraordinary. I mean, every day you go in there, life and death, you look after people, the decisions you have to make, the leadership you have to do. is just extraordinary to me. So please, I feel that really anything I've done is just absolutely minor to the things that you're doing. But I just hope that it's sort of a metaphor of thinking about how you invite more people to the fire, see what you do in a way that really puts it into perspective, and how you can help yourself more, how others can help you. Because honestly, the leadership you've demonstrated is, to me, just completely humbling. And I'm sure Krishna would say the same thing.
Absolutely. I think, like I say, I think, honestly, I was thinking about, like a couple of times, even in a military term, we were putting onto the situation certain time, but we have a time and come back, speak with our friends and family, have a couple of pints and reflection, and, we are conscious and go back. And then we put in a couple of, like couple of minutes or in a distressful situation. But as a NHS staff in front line is that they are constantly 24 hours under distress. I think, like I briefly mentioned, the only way to have a full control is have we got ourselves fully controlled, where the inner energy of within ourselves is in the moment, and then have we got reflection ourselves, and that's the only way we can take control with the social and our with social and then these certain situations, because we got to be in good position for physically, mentally. And like whatever we do is the consequence of our what we are aware of the current situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a spiritual element to it as well, isn't there, Krishna? And I think you've touched on that previously.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to me is the if we look into the thing, I think I grown up in the mountain, worshiping the tree, worshiping the mountain. I think if we change our perception, like not looking at the tree, but actually my own lungs is hanging with the tree. If the tree is not giving me the oxygen, we can actually breathe. So if we change our perception, the way we see ourselves, and then are inclusive with the nature and the world, then we have a different perception. Once I change that perception, and then once the people start following your perception, the way you see, then I think then you became a leader, and you became a leadership of that when the people see that. And that's why I said so much, like on before as well, once you have that different perception yourself, and then the way as a leader and individual, I think as a leader, it's very important. Those people who are behind the scenes, like climbing the Everest, Sherpas are people walking and dumping and do the admin. And like here, like Mike and Christine, you are doing so much background. Without your support, I think this event wouldn't be, happen. I think that as a leadership, wherever you are, I think in the mountain or in the battlefield or in the hospital or in the house, to have understanding of our surrounding and conscious about that and highlighting that situation, and think about, take a little bit breathe, and then just look behind, who are the people behind, and if we can connect, and how can we progress with that, would be then make a difference in our lives and with the social situation.
Fantastic, absolutely, Krishna. That's really, thanks for sharing that with us. Absolutely, and what you've described there is what I've heard from others that have spoke during the festival, whether that's Carol on neuroscience, or whether that's Eddie about chaos and going through the bad stuff to get to the good stuff. And what you've just described there really, really sort of resonates with everything that's been talked about, and actually feeling connected with what we're trying to do as a community of professionals, and as a community of people that may use project management on occasions, and you've described is front and center to a lot of those things. Anthony, I think you're gonna chip in there.
No, I'm just humbled by the way that I've been looked after. The last couple of times I've been in hospital, sort of got bitten by a spider in Australia and got back to England in time. And no, it's just the way I've been looked after. It's just humbling, what you do on a daily basis. And I just hope my story provides a tiny bit of metaphor to think about your own journey as we go forward with the next session, and just think about who you'd like to invite to your fire and thank, and how we can move forward. But thank you all very much.
No, thank you, Anthony, and thank you, Krishna. We're going to take a short break now. Do join us for the second session, which is coming up. We're going to introduce Dowdson, as Anthony described at the opening, who's going to give some instructions on a territory map, and we encourage you to participate in that and to really work through some of those challenges that Anthony and Krishna have described to us in the last 45 minutes. So we're going to break for the next 15. Do join us. Looking forward to hearing more about what you see your map being. We are looking to share a prize tomorrow for the best map. We're looking at giving a prize of a compass. So, you know, little incentive there for you. But yeah, do join us in the next 15 minutes, and we look forward to seeing you then. So thanks very much.
Thank you.